Hi there, happy hump day, which means it must be Wednesday. I hope you're having an amazing week. So today we're talking about choice. When you think about it, the freedom to choose is a really important, innate part of who we are and how we see the world. Because when we've got autonomy, when we have the freedom to decide what we do and what we don't do, we have control over the decisions that impact us. And that's liberating and it's empowering. So on the flip side, when you don't have choice, when you lose that freedom to decide, it's demotivating. And it also impacts your self-esteem and your sense of well-being. Because when you feel like you have no control over what's going on around you, it's highly stressful. So having a choice, feeling like there are options and that you're making the decision as to which option you're choosing, that's a really important part of you having that ability to control where your life goes and what you do and what you don't do. The curious thing, having too much choice, well, that has some problems as well. So when I was growing up, and I'm about to age myself, there were 4 TV channels. Today, not only do you have all the free-to-air channels, but of course you've got all the streaming services, Stan, Netflix, Binge. In fact, you could argue there's almost too much choice. And research shows this, that there's actually a tipping point when having too much choice actually isn't good for us. Because when we have too many options in front of us, it doesn't necessarily make us any more content or happier. Instead, it actually makes it harder for us to make a decision. We prevaricate. We stress over whether we're making the right choice. We actually feel overwhelmed because we're worried about what that best choice would be. And so therefore, we often don't make a choice at all. Although I would argue that when you're not making a choice, you are actually still deciding to do something. You're just deciding not to do something. So if you haven't watched it, you should have a look at Barry Schwartz's TED Talk on this topic, because he talks about that paradox of choice. And he does an awesome job of explaining how this plays out. A similar scenario plays out when it comes to goal setting and to achieving goals. Associate Professor at Stanford, Si-Chul Huang, found that when people are close to achieving something, so when they're close to achieving their goal or some other type of outcome that they're striving for, having one way to achieve that goal, that helps you better secure and achieve that goal. Because when there's too many options, when there are too many ways that you can go to achieve that goal or outcome, you actually end up losing focus. However, when you're starting, when you're trying to work out what it is that you want to do, having options to begin with, well, that's important. Because having options motivates and encourages you to continue. So the upshot, we want choice, and it's good to have options. The challenge is you just don't want too many, and you need to know what point it's really important to narrow down to just that one option. So how do you choose from a range of options? Do you have a selection criteria, or is it something else? Are you relying on gut instinct or how you feel? Or are you going through a deliberate decision-making process? There are lots of variables that will play into this. And it's never a one-size-fits-all approach. The one thing that remains constant when you're making a decision that matters to you is the need to be considered, deliberate about how you're making that decision. Now, I'd suggest you ask yourself some questions. Firstly, is your decision-making process fit for purpose? So does it suit what it is that you're trying to make a decision on? Are you weighing up the risks and the implications and the outcomes that you want to achieve? Are you deciding with short or longer-term consequences in mind? Are you falling into the trap of making the decision with the least amount of resistance attached to it? Because sometimes when you're doing that, it means you're making the easy decision. Sometimes easy decisions are not the best decisions in the long run. When you make the decision, how's it making you feel now? How do you think it's going to make you feel in a week's time, in a month's time, in a year's time? Does this decision have the potential to lead to negative consequences for you or for other people around you? And are you going to be proud of the decision that you make? Does it stand the test of time? Does it align with your values? And I'm sure there will be other questions that you may want to ask yourself as well. So as you think about that, I'm going to leave you with a quote. It's a quote by a very well-known author, J.K. Rowling. And she said, "It's our choices that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities." Take care, and I'll see you next week.